RFK Jr. also getting heavily attacked because of some comments that he made. And it all started with this tweet. So RFK Jr., he is retweeting Bill Ackman. We're going to get into him. Bravo, Bill Ackman. It's time to hold college administrations responsible for the epidemic of campus anti-Semitism by insisting on zero tolerance policies. RFK Jr. is quick to come and defend certain groups. You ever notice that? You ever notice that? So let me show you what he's referring to. Bill Ackman. And I'm going to tell you who Bill is in a second as well. Please see my letter below to the president of Harvard University sent today. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but there are a couple of points I want to point out. I'm writing this letter to you regretfully. Never did I think I would have to write a letter to the president of my alma mater about the impact of her actions and inactions on the health and the safety of its student body in order to help catalyze necessary change. For the past 4 weeks since the horrors of October 7th, I've been in dialogue with members of the corporation board, other alumni, as well as students and faculty, sharing and comparing our concerns about the growing number of anti-Semitic incidents on campus as we wait for you and the university to act. 4 weeks after the barbaric terrorist acts of October 7th, notice they're all using the same vocabulary, barbaric. I have lost confidence that you and the university will do what is required. Last Wednesday, I spent 7 hours on campus meeting with Jewish, Israeli, and non-Jewish students and faculty at the law school, at Harvard Business School, and in a 90-minute town hall in Aldrich 112 with 230 Jewish college students, coincidentally, one for each hostage held by Hamas, research staff, and faculty from university at large, organized by Harvard Chabad. Over the course of the day, it became clear that the situation at Harvard is dire and getting worse, much worse than I had realized. So let me just stop there for a second. Notice who he chose to meet with and who he chose not to meet with. Why didn't you meet with both groups? Why didn't you also meet with Palestinian students, Bill? Another piece that I want to point out here. He said that Jewish students were bullied, physically intimidated, spat on, and severely widely disseminated videos of one such incident, physically assaulted. Student Slack message boards are replete with anti-Semitic statements, memes, and images. Our campus posters on the Widener Library steps and elsewhere shout out Intifada, Intifada. From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free, as they knowingly call for a violent insurrection and use eliminationist language, seeking the destruction of the state of Israel and the Jewish people. Let's talk about this phrase here for a second. First of all, that's not what that phrase means. So what Bill and what RFK Jr., I'm going to show you something else RFK Jr. said in reference to them. What they're trying to do is that they're trying to now claim that that phrase in itself is anti-Semitic because that is what the ADL said. That's not even what the phrase means. So you see how RFK Jr. just basically repeats what the ADL says or what they say at these APAC conventions. He doesn't do this research for himself. He just repeats what they say. And Bill is doing the same thing. But we're going to get into Bill in a second. And I want to get to this part right here. He basically lays out this plan for Harvard where he says this is something that they need to do to make something better. He goes on to talk about the Jewish students at Harvard. This is a long letter. That's why I said I'm not reading this entire thing. He brings in DEI. Oh, now all of a sudden he cares about diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's interesting. Funny coming from him. Let me go down here. This is a comparison that he makes. How would you respond to a Harvard white supremacist protest where students shouted Tulsa, Tulsa, Tulsa from the Atlantic to the Pacific? America should be free of black people. Let me highlight this right here. This is the dumbest shit I have seen. This guy is a billionaire, by the way. That is not what from the river to the sea means. Don't even bring black people into this shit. Don't even try to bring us into this, Bill, because you're not too keen on black people. See, I know some things about Bill. Bill's not too keen on black people. Just keep that in mind. Let's continue. And then this piece here at the end, because I told you this is a really long letter and we don't have time for all this. At the end, he calls out all these things. You guys can read this on your own. This part down here, he said, I would be delighted to help in any way that I can to enable you to succeed in this mission. And as Harvard's president, please let me know what more I can do to help. Now, Bill Ackman obviously is an alum. He puts his, graduation dates there from his MBA and then also his business degree as well from undergrad. Now, let me tell you something about Bill. Bill is a billionaire hedge fund manager. Now, Bill is one of those billionaires like David Sachs that claims that they love free speech so much. Everything. We really got to protect free speech. So first and foremost, that phrase coming from people showing solidarity with the Palestinian people, that phrase is not anti-Semitic. Bill doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about. He's just repeating talking points from other organizations. Again, notice how he only chose to meet with one group. He didn't choose to meet with any of the Palestinian students. He didn't ask them how they feel. He didn't point out any incidents of Islamophobia. Now, all of a sudden, you care about how groups are treated at these institutions, Bill. Where were you when the black students were bullied and taunted and harassed on Harvard's campus and it made national news? Where were you, Bill? You were nowhere to be found because that was about black people. So here's Bill with his hypocritical ass. Here's Bill talking about free speech. And so, of course, underneath, you'll see underneath his picture, you'll see they're kind of like making fun of him. So listen to this. Uh-oh, what just happened? Oh, here we go. Oh, no. Let me retweet. Sorry, I had to refresh. Why did it take me to this one? These YouTube, Eric, can you put that back up? It's a YouTube short, and sometimes those, I guess because I scrolled down, it did the thing. It should be on the pad there. Thanks so much. While he does that, I'll get to this. Thank you for the super chat, John. If we had socialism, all the baby boomers could retire. That's a good point. Good point there, John. Okay, there it is. All right, I won't scroll down this time. Listen to this.
One of the sad things about our country right now is I think free speech has been crushed to a great extent. If you can say something, if you could express a political view and get fired today, which is definitely a very real possibility, only if you're financially independent or, an entrepreneur of some kind, or you've got enough money in the bank, can you take the risk of speaking freely. One of the sad things about our country right now is I think free speech has been crushed to a great extent. If you can say something, if you could express a political view and get fired today, which is definitely a very real possibility, only if you're financially independent or, an entrepreneur of some kind, or you've got enough money in the bank, can you take the risk of speaking freely. One of the sad.
So here's Bill Ackman, because people found this. And Bill Ackman is saying he's an advocate for free speech. And he talks about how you can be silenced. You can lose job prospects, which he approves, by the way. He approves of these students that wrote that letter at Harvard University. He approves of them losing job opportunities. So Bill is a hypocrite. But you also need to know that the other reason why RFK Jr. is defending Bill Ackman is because Bill Ackman donated to his campaign. See, you always got to follow the money. I tell you, these politicians ain't shit. I'm telling you every time. Investor Bill Ackman and David Sachs' PAC donated to RFK Jr.'s presidential campaign. Both David Sachs and Bill Ackman are billionaires, just FYI. Let's go on. And that's Bill Ackman right there. Billionaire hedge fund chief Bill Ackman donated $3,300 in the second quarter to Democrat presidential candidate RFK Jr.'s campaign during the second quarter, according to the FEC filing. Ackman's donation came just days after he sided in a tweet with Kennedy's broadly debunked skepticism about the jab. Ackman, the CEO of Pershing Square Capital, explained to CNBC days later, I listened to RFK on several podcasts and a town hall and thought he raised important issues about it and other issues that were worth learning more about. When asked at the time, he didn't say whether he had donated to Kennedy's campaign. Ackman is one of several prominent business leaders who donated to Kennedy's campaign in the second quarter. The Purple Good Government PAC, a committee that's been largely funded by investor and Elon Musk ally David Sachs, donated $6,600 to the campaign. Ken Fisher, the founder and executive chairman of Fisher Investments, donated $6,600 to the campaign, according to the filing. And here's another one. Veteran Wall Street executive Omid Malik also donated $6,600 to the campaign, the filing says. So again, this is why I always tell you to follow the money, and then you'll see that, of course, he is going to endorse this guy's statement because that is someone who donated to his campaign. But RFK Jr. is supposed to be the free speech guy. What happened to that, mister? I'm pro free speech. I'm the peace candidate. Brianna Joy Gray had something to say about this. She said RFK Jr. coming out in favor of sanctioning college students for pro-Palestinian speech and using threats to their post-grad employment opportunities as a cudgel to silence them. Not the pro-speech candidate, not the guy who's anti-censorship. RFK actually responded to Brianna Joy Gray, and he said, I support the freedom to express all protected speech. I encourage respectful discussions from all sides of the Gaza crisis. I don't support bullying, harassment, intimidation, and discrimination that has inspired fear in Jewish students and caused some to stop wearing yarmulke on campus. The First Amendment does not protect such conduct, and campus administration should crack down. I look forward to talking in person. So let me go ahead and debunk something that he said in this statement. I encourage respectful discussions from all sides of the Gaza crisis. Really? If that's true, then why hasn't he had this conversation with Max Blumenthal? Why hasn't he had this conversation with Useful Idiots podcast? Why hasn't he had this conversation with Norm Finkelstein? Why hasn't he had this conversation with any other Jewish individual that disagrees with him on this issue? It goes on. Bree responded back and said, there is an active dispute on whether from the river to the sea Palestine will be free constitutes a call for genocide. Many Jewish groups who've organized the protests over the last few weeks have said it's a call to end of occupation and apartheid. And that's what it really means. But see, RFK Jr. can't say that because then he would have to acknowledge that the occupation and the apartheid actually exists in the first place, which he doesn't want to do. That would hurt his donor class. She goes on to say the statement you endorse would punish protesters based on subjective definitions of threats to Jewish students, and it reproduces allegations of bullying that have been disproven. And notice he never brings up what's happening to the Palestinian people. He never brings up no, we're not going to talk about Palestinian kids being bullied. RFK doesn't want to talk about Palestinians being taken from their home, having their land taken from them, being put into an open air prison. He don't want to talk about any of that. None of it. So no, he's not interested in entertaining discussions from all sides about Gaza. She goes on to say, I'd be more than happy to discuss this with you. I've reached out to invite you on Bad Faith Podcast in the past, but will do so again. I appreciate your openness to dialogue. A lot of people on the left that I know of have reached out months ago to have this conversation with RFK Jr. Now, let me tell you what I think is really going on. And then I'm going to show you this video from RFK Jr. I really think that RFK Jr. is running an illusion of a campaign. Let me rephrase it this way. I think that RFK Jr. is running the illusion of an outsider campaign. Let me break that down. RFK Jr. is running outside the two-party system. He left the Democratic Party. He's running as an independent. We commended him for doing that. That still doesn't mean he doesn't have shit takes. So RFK Jr. is now running this campaign outside the duopoly. So now people are like, all right, awesome. He broke away from the Democratic Party, a true independent challenge. Here we go. He is the anti-establishment candidate. He's there to take down this system. He's not an insider. But is that true? RFK Jr. is accepting his donations from billionaires. That's who's supporting his campaign. David Sachs, Bill Ackman, a lot of these tech bros, that's who's supporting RFK Jr.'s campaigns. Now, you say that you're out there and you're going to fight for the American people, the working class people are suffering. How is that going to happen when you're basically in bed with all these billionaires and these hedge fund managers? You guys really believe that? You guys know this is a joke, right? I said the same thing. When Cornel West took that money from that billionaire, I said that was not good. A lot of people criticized him for that, and he gave the money back. RFK is not giving it back. RFK Jr. is in bed with his class. You have to understand, we are not in the same class as him. He is a Kennedy, and I live in Massachusetts, and Kennedys are like royalty here. So you have to understand that. We're not on the same page as him. We're not. He is not going to jeopardize his social standing in society and go against the billionaire class. And I'm going to show you how he's a hypocrite in this own video that he posted on Twitter. Then he says he is the peace candidate. He makes the statement that we need to give Israel the money and the weapons so that they can fight. But he's a peace candidate. And a lot of people called him out for that. He lost some support after that statement. People that I knew that were staunch RFK Jr. supporters. But he's the peace candidate. He says he's pro free speech, right? But here he is saying that you should censor and silence these students at Harvard. By the way, the students at Harvard that wrote the letter, most of those students are Black. I know because unlike RFK Jr., I actually was at the rally that those students spoke at. RFK Jr. wants them to lose their job prospects. RFK Jr., you want these Black college students to lose their job prospects? Because you believe some statement that the ADO said about a phrase, so you don't do your own research. You don't talk to any of the Palestinian people. You don't talk to the protesters. You just believe what you read. So you believed what you were told. And now you want those students to be silenced and to lose job opportunities. But you're the free speech candidate. This is a joke. Let me tell you what he means by free speech. When RFK Jr. says he's against censorship and he's pro-free speech, you need to ask this question. Free speech for who? What kind of speech, RFK? What are you okay with people discussing? And speech that benefits who? Because what I've noticed, it seems like it's speech that benefits the donor class. Think about this, guys. This shit was all planned. This goes all the way back to that Defeat the Mandates rally. When he spoke at that rally then, that was him basically gearing up for a presidential run. Notice he doesn't go on to shows that have a left-wing audience. Yes, he went on the Glenn Greenwald show. He went on the Jimmy Dore show. But most of the people in those shows are not left. You can tell just by looking at the comments. Notice he won't have this conversation with Max after he said he would. What is he so afraid of? He's supposed to take on the CIA and the deep state. He's supposed to do all this stuff, but he won't have a conversation on a podcast with Max Blumenthal? You guys really believe this guy? RFK is there to give you the impression that you have an outside candidate that is not an insider, that is not a part of the system, but he is very much a part of the same corporate system that he said that he would fight against. And he's going to expose himself here in this video that he posted. Listen to this.
Why the decision to run for president?
We need to end this corrupt merger of state and corporate power, which is destroying our country. That collaboration is responsible for the forever wars that are bankrupting the middle class, that are causing this inflationary spiral, for the poisoning of our water, of our environment, of our food supply.
Pause. Let's go back, because I can already debunk two things that he just said in this ad. Guys, you can't, I'm be honest with you. I will not let people fall for this shit again. After Bernie, I will not let people fall for this again.
We need to end this corrupt merger of state and corporate power, which is destroying our country. That collaboration is responsible for the forever wars that are bankrupting the middle class, that are causing this inflationary spiral.
Pause. We need to end this merger of corporations with politics, right? With government. But he taking corporate money. Let's continue. Let's get to this part here about the water.
Middle class that are causing this inflationary spiral, for the poisoning of our water, of our environment,
the poisoning of our water, our environment, and our food supply. But RFK Jr. has no problem with the Palestinians having their water poisoned. RFK Jr. has traveled all across the world, guys, in reference to his environmental activism. He didn't just do environmental activism in the United States. He did environmental activism also in South America. He's traveled all across this world. So this isn't just an issue that he was passionate about in reference to America. He was passionate about this on a global level, except when it comes to Palestinians. Let's go on.
Our food supply. And it's also it's causing this extraordinary systematic shift in wealth upward, away from the working poor, away from the middle class, to create this new aristocracy of billionaires. In 500 days of lockdown, we created...
Pause. Nearly 500 people became billionaires during the pandemic year. Listen to what he says here. Let me go back. Where's my little thingy? Now, remember what I already showed you. Watch this.
From the middle class, to create this new aristocracy of billionaires. In 500 days of lockdown, we created 500 new billionaires. And we taught everybody.
So essentially what RFK Jr. is, he's taking bits and pieces from Bernie Sanders campaigns and bits and pieces from Trump's campaign and merged them all together as one. So now he's talking about the billionaires, which Bernie Sanders did, right? He's talking about the billionaires now, but he's taking money from billionaires. What I just show you? He's taking money from Bill Ackman. He's taking money from David Sachs. He's taking money from billionaires. So I'm supposed to believe that he's going to stop that funnel going up to the billionaire class, that he's going to call for this end of this type of capitalism that supports the billionaires, and he's getting donations from billionaires? Guys, this guy is playing you. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I saw this shit with Bernie. I'm telling you now, this is a scam. And what makes it worse is that unlike Bernie, he was willing to leave the Democratic Party and do it outside of the Democratic Party, outside the duopoly. So now more people really think he's the real deal, unlike Bernie, because Bernie wasn't willing to do it. This guy is playing you for a fool. How you gonna target the billionaire class and you're taking their money, goddammit? Let's continue.
In this country to use Amazon to forsake the local retailers who are now, all boarded up. And those are the people who pay local taxes, who enrich our community, who give summer jobs to your kids, who finance the local Boy Scouts, who pay for the Little League and the hockey jerseys, and they're all gone. Amazon doesn't pay any local taxes. They pay not a dime in federal taxes either last.
This is just something he just copied from Bernie's campaign. The Amazon thing. See, again, like I told you, when you're calling out corruption and you're talking about corporate power, it's easy to call out Amazon. Everybody knows about Amazon. It's easy to call out Jeff Bezos. Everybody knows about Jeff Bezos. When you're going to call out people like Larry Fink? When you're going to call out the billionaires that you're taking money from, like Bill Ackman and David Sachs? You're not going to call them out. They're your friends. Let's continue.
Time in federal taxes either last year. They're doing it right in front of us. They're ripping out the middle class in this country. If you like this,
they're ripping out the middle class in this country, but damn it, I'm running for president and I'm going to take that billionaire money. RFK Jr., like Marianne Williamson, is also writing a book. Don't fall for it, guys. Do not fall for this again. This is a joke. This guy he's not a peace candidate. He is not a free speech candidate. RFK Jr. is in bed with billionaires, fucking hedge fund managers. And if you believe that he's going to look out for the best interest of the working class, you guys are playing yourself. People within those circles never turn on their own circle. Always remember that. Rich people always look out for each other, boo. Always.